everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net. Welcome to part 2 of this series we are doing. This time we are talking about Endgames, Endgame tricks by the world champion Magnus Carlsen. So if you haven't seen part 1, I strongly recommend watching it. Here we have another endgame where it is visible that White has an advantage because we have the bishop pair. We know the bishop pair is good for open positions, and also in endgames this is supposed to be an advantage. We see this knight on c2, which is kind of lost. I mean, it would be much better if it was placed on c6, for instance. So we have an advantage. We have the initiative. And as white, we also have the idea of playing rook d7 plus bishop c4. So it is black to move, and it is not easy to defend. In the game, black played bishop f8. Let me tell you, this is Carlsen against Bush and Shi. This game was played in Bill in 2007. So black played bishop f8, which in practice is a mistake, but it is tough to suggest something else for black. So let's see what happened after bishop f8. Here, white played bishop d1. I love this move because then from b3, we are ready to place our rook on d7, and from b3, our bishop is going to be protected. I mean, bishop c4, this looks possible as well, but here black has an amazing resource which is easy to miss. Black can play b5. If bishop takes, we lose a bishop, and if rook takes, then white loses a piece after knight a3. I mean, we can still play bishop d5, I guess, but rook a6, I still see my rook in trouble, and I don't see how to keep everything under control as white. Bishop a6, rook a7, and here I think, yeah, I'm done as white. I have to play bishop b6. Okay, yeah, knight takes. Yeah, at the end of the day, even if we have to calculate as black, we win a piece. So bishop c4, I have to say this is a move that would be played by a lot of us. I mean, I would easily miss this b5 if I'm not concentrated. So we see Magnus playing an accurate move already. Bishop d1 is the way to go. We want to play bishop b3 and then rook d7. So what happened in the game is black played knight b4. This is good because the knight is useless, so black wants to trade this knight off. So bishop takes, and bishop b3. So we have an opposite color bishop endgame, where white is much better because f7 is a target. The e4 pawn isn't ideally placed. We can attack this pawn as well, and our bishop is much better than his. So this is what happened in the game, and now we'll continue with this in a minute. But instead of bishop f8, let's see which was the best defense for black, and this is not easy at all. Knight a3, this was better. If bishop d1, the idea is to play knight c4, and if bishop b4, this variation is analyzed by Grandmaster Carlsen. As white, we take the knight because our idea is to place the bishop on c4. So rook takes, bishop c4. It looks like, as white, we are almost there, and we don't see a defense for black, but he has rook c3, bishop b3. Now a waiting move by black, and if rook d7, which looks almost winning to be honest, black has rook c1, king here, and now the magical rook c7. Now everything is under control, And the problem is, after rook takes, he plays bishop d6, and he fully equalizes. Of course, this is easy with the help of a computer, but in a real game, it's almost impossible to find this variation for black. So, with black played, bishop f8 is like the human move. Now we see Magnus playing the accurate bishop d1. As we said, bishop c4. I want to see this trick once more. We lose all the advantage as white. So, okay, bishop f8, bishop d1, knight b4, takes, bishop b3, and now black is in some trouble. First, he plays b6. Now if we play rook d7, which is what Magnus played, he plays rook f8, and okay, this is the only weakness he has, together with e4. b6 is not hanging, and we have this endgame where, as white, we have a lot of pressure, and black pieces are tied up on the king side, especially the rook on f8, so we have an edge. We don't know whether this is enough to win or not. So let's see how Magnus gets a win, how he gets the full point out of this position. So he starts with this move, and I like it. If we have the chance, we can even consider advancing like this. The idea is to have this pawn under a pin for the rest of the game. Even if black plays king here, he is still under a pin and he cannot move his pieces. So this c4 advance is very good. We also have room for our king. We would love driving our king to f4 and grab the e4 pawn. So black plays this move. Makes a lot of sense as well. He needs some space, some air to breathe on the king side. So from now on, let's just watch and see how Magnus converts his advantage. First, we attack the b6 pawn. Now, these two guys are under attack, and bishop d5. After a couple of moves, we see white is already winning a pawn. And now, after king g7, Magnus doesn't take on e4. He plays king f1. Another great move. Why not taking on e4? If we do so, which is possible by the way, black plays rook e8, and he takes his chance to improve his rook dramatically. The rook was passive on f8, now he plays like this. He's still down a pawn, but his drawing chances are much higher now, because his rook is much better. So, bishop takes c4. Knowing this, I would say taking the pawn is a mistake, and Magnus plays king f1. Much better move. We see he keeps on improving his position, and now a4. Black can only move his king, and of course we don't play a move like king d1, because he might have a move like rook d8. I'm not entirely sure, because we can take, and then we have rook f5. But we are taking risks, and it is not, there's no need. So king d1, our king is not going anywhere. I mean, the queen side is kind of empty now. So, well, now I say this, I might go to the queen side if my idea is to sacrifice on b6. We'll see this later, but we see Magnus getting more space first. So a4, black continues moving his king, and he doesn't play king c6 because we take on e4 with check. So king there, rook c7. Now another trick, if possible, we'll play a5. So yeah, white is doing a lot of things before thinking about driving the king to the queen side. So bishop b4, and now we take. I feel Magnus decided to take on e4 because he didn't see any other way of improving that position. I mean, we moved a4, our bishop is on d5, couldn't be better placed, and there's no room for improvement, so that is why he took the e4 pawn. And black plays rook d8. Rook e8 looks better. Bishop d5, rook e7. We said the rook on e7 is better, but now we play rook c6. And we see another problem for black. If bishop c5, then we simply play a5, and we get our passer. This is losing for black. And if bishop a5, now, well, in the analysis we see e4. I'm not really sure about this. I would play bishop c4. Somehow, I would make sure his pieces are stuck on the queen side, and I would try converting my advantage on the king side like this. Maybe e4 is possible as well, but the problem is I don't see how to advance with f4. Here we see the idea. If we play e4, we want to keep the king side under control, and then we go for king journey to b5, and then we sacrifice on b6. That would be an awesome plan to convert our advantage because the a4 pawn runs. So, yeah, maybe that's another possible way. We see endgames are tough. While analyzing, we discover more and more plans. I even discover plans I haven't analyzed before doing the video, so that's pretty interesting and useful for me, of course. So rook d8, black tries an active defense. This is better than rook e8, but we close the d file. We still plan bishop c4. So all we have to do here is watch and learn from Carlsen's technique. Black decides to place the rook on f6, which is defending every single pawn in that position, every single weak point, I would say. So let's see how Magnus converts his advantage. When we talk about an opposite color bishop endgame, we see a lot of moves. And here black is in some kind of 6-1. I would probably try this move, because if he moves the bishop now, white has the chance of advancing. I'm curious how Magnus would continue if black played this move. We see after this, white advances, and now we get some improvements. Bishop e1, bishop d5. This is a slow process. We see white is going to the queen side, and somehow we need to get rid of the b6 pawn. It is unlikely we win on the king side, because we only have an extra pawn there, and black has many ways of blockading the king side. But on the queen side, we have the a4 pawn. As you can see, black, he trades a couple of pawns on the king side. Now he plays bishop f2. It is slow death by white here. I mean, the process is done by white, king d5. Black is completely stuck. He cannot move. He plays king f8, king e5. We see a repetition here, but he's still under a lot of pins. So bishop d2, king d3, bishop f4, king c4. We are almost there. I get the feeling Magnus was trying a couple of moves. In the meantime, he was trying moves, whereas he was finding the right plan. That usually happens in a position like this. White, he has nothing to lose. Worst scenario, it is a draw for us. But finding the right wall border might be tough, because black has a lot of moves. We have a lot of ways of moving our king. So that's what I feel. Sometimes you gotta try a lot of moves, a lot of king moves, before finding the right way. So king c4. Now the plan is king b5 plus taking the b6 pawn, king f8. bishop d5, bishop e3, and we finally got our king to b5. Now the question is how to get rid of the resistance on b6. Black plays this, bishop e6, king f8, bishop c4, bishop f2, bishop d5. And now we see how Magnus found, after a lot of moves, the right way to go. We blockade the 6th rank, and then we sacrifice on b6. So king h6. Black knows the sacrifice is coming, so he's also coming after our kingside pawns. We take. Now Black decides to play this move. If this, we simply take, king here, and the biggest problem for Black is his rook cannot even reach the 8th rank without losing a tempi. So here I play this, rook here. I mean, this is absolutely lost. I can even play bishop d7 and promote afterwards. So after rook takes b6, Black has much better chances if he keeps his bishop. So he plays king here. Magnus doesn't move the rook. He plays a5. The rook is going to be useful as a shield. I mean, the bishop is not guarding a7. So here we see Black tried rook d6. If king takes, it is amazing, but we can even play a move like bishop d7. It is key to keep this last pawn under control in order to avoid any possible drawish endgames. As long as the rook is protected and as long as the f5 is under control, our king and the a5 pawn are deciding the issue. Here, for instance, well, if he takes on b6, we simply win, but if this, I can take, I can play this, and I should be able to convert this with no real problems. So a5, rook d6, rook b7, this is almost over. Now we have 2 extra pawns, and I'm really worried about the a5 pawn as Black. So we see Black continues for a couple of moves, but he could resign already. White even affords bringing the king back to e2. So yeah, after a lot of moves actually, it took like 20 moves for Black to resign, I believe, or let's say 15 extra moves. But okay, it was great because we could appreciate Magnus' technique. Even in this position after f7, we see him sacrificing the queen, the rook. Wow. I was thinking out loud, I'm pretty close to promoting, and after a7, the thing is, Black cannot stop both a8 and f8 queen. So we see a classy way of finishing this endgame. A tough one, I have to say. When I see these endgames, I realize how far I am from understanding chess, and this is maybe what makes the difference between a good grandmaster and a super grandmaster, handling these sort of positions. So this is one of the endgames we have to see. Let's see another one. So now we'll see an entire game because we can watch the opening quickly. This was played between Carlsen against Vescovi and Corusby in 2006. So Magnus was playing white, Vescovi was playing black. And we see a Sicilian takes, knight takes. We have the Taimanov. By the way, we have a Taimanov series on a deep dive course. You can find this on the iChess site. So here we have Taimanov, white takes, pawn takes, bishop d3. This is a simple line for white. Against the Taimanov white, he can go for aggressive setups like the English attack with bishop b3, queen d2. bishop e2 would be the positional approach, and this is positional as well. We offer black the chance of having a good center, but he's lacking development, and his bishop on c8 isn't the greatest bishop in the world, we know that. So white castles, knight f6, rook e1. This is a good move, and there is a little difference between rook e1 and queen e2. This also looks reasonable, but when we play rook e1, this works like a nice waiting move. Let me explain. Our plan as white is to advance and drive our queen to the king side. So basically we are waiting for black to move his bishop. Therefore this pawn is hanging. If we play queen e2 and then we play e5, we are wasting a tempi next time we move the queen. So if we play rook e1, which is what Magnus played, after bishop e7, we play e5, and next move, now this pawn isn't protected, we play queen c4. So rook e1, bishop e7, we need these moves in before thinking about a kingside attack. So black plays this move, he has to. If he castles, this is a problem. We have bishop h6 and he loses this change, so he plays this move. And now after this, Magnus plays knight to a4, another positional move which I really like. I have to say bishop h6 is also a nice move by white. First, we stop him from castling, and second, if he wants to play bishop f8, we are more than happy to trade bishops off. We can start with this move, we can even play queen f4. But the concept is, we trade black's best bishop, and he's left with a tall pawn. This bishop couldn't be worse. It is crashing into the entire pawn chain, whereas bishop d3 is a good bishop. So this positional trade, I like it as well. Knight a4, when we play this move, the idea is to stop black from advancing too much. After all, the advantage black has in this position is the center. So knight a4, c4 is coming next, and that would be stopping his center advance. So queen a5, careful here because rook e1 is hanging. The knight on a4 is being protected, so bishop h6. Everything is under control, and black plays queen b4. So if you were asking how we reach an endgame, here's the answer. Black decides to play queen b4, and suddenly, after 15 moves, we have an endgame, or a pre-endgame. c3, black decides to play bishop f8. I have to say bishop a5 is possible as well, but we increase our pressure with b4. I mean, this position, I feel white is better. We simply have more space, better pieces, and black couldn't improve his center. I mean, I think black would be successful if he somehow advances his pawns. So bishop f8, this move, I mean, it is possible, but this is what we are looking for, to play this endgame with the better bishop and more space. So rook takes, and now a nice move by Carlsen, c4. f4 is possible too. I mean, sometimes, especially in a blitz game, I would play this without even thinking. I would place my pawns on dark squares. I would make sure bishop d3 is a good bishop, but c4 is even better. We are trying to challenge black lack of development, and if he takes, first of all, if he takes, his pawn structure gets worse, whereas my structure is ideal. So are my pieces. I mean, my knight on a4 is ready to jump to c5 or b6. so he cannot take. If he advances, trying to play c5, I play c5 myself, and then this pawn is dead. So black has to wait. He cannot take, he cannot play d4, and what happens here is, as white, I want to take, and then I want to play on the c file as well. So he plays king e7, reasonable, takes, and rook a c1. I'm not saying white is winning already, but we have a risk-free advantage. We want to keep placing pieces on the c file, we want to increase our pressure, and here is where black has to be precise if he wants to keep the balance. He plays rook a7, which is probably the first mistake. It looks good to stop rook c7, but the problem is white's next move. If we knew what is happening, maybe a5 is easier to find. First, when black plays a5, he stops b4, and that is what happened in the game. And second, and this is a matter of instincts maybe, when you play a5 as black, you're trying to play bishop a6. You're getting rid of your bad bishop. I mean, this bishop is terrible, so if black plays bishop a6, he would be fixing a lot of issues in his position. If rook c7, I mean, maybe king d8, it's not that terrible. This is a queen-less position. So maybe white, after a5, he has to play a move like rook c6. And okay, we are still under some pressure, but it shouldn't be a huge deal. Rook a7 looks reasonable as well, but we see b4 is played by white. We keep on winning space on the queen side, and the biggest problem for black is now this bishop doesn't have any future. The knight on d7 cannot be moved, because then we move our knight, and if he plays a5 now, we simply play b5, and this bishop remains dead. Not to mention the b5 pawn keeps on advancing. So this is probably the biggest mistake in the game. And by the way, nice refutation by white. b4, now black has to play bishop b7, and Magnus keeps on placing his pawns on dark squares. And it looks like this still should be kind of drawish, but the truth is black is way too passive, and I have to say this once more, his bishop on c8 is terrible. Now the king continues his way up to the center, but now he moves the knight. We take the chance of playing knight c5. Little by little, Magnus improves that position. I love this sort of moves because maybe there was no need of playing rook c2, but Magnus plays it anyway. We make sure the rook is protected, and if we have to move the knight for whatever reason, we'll move it. If we have the rook on c1, obviously, we can only consider knight b3. So this move, I think it's good in practice. Knight d7, knight b3, awesome stuff. I think that taking on d7 also gives us a great endgame with good winning chances, because I'll place my king on d4, and sooner or later I'll continue advancing on both sides of the board. As white, I can even think about placing my king on c5, and his bishop is going to be forced to protecting his weaknesses for the rest of the game. So the trade, I think in practice, white has a clear advantage. We see Magnus avoids the trade, and this should be even better. I mean, we have to trust his instincts. We can still trade knights whenever we want, and we continue advancing on dark squares. So knight b8, knight d4, we play against his ideas, and now it is also time to advance on the king side. If we have the chance of playing g5, that would be great, because then his pawns are fixed on light squares for the rest of the game. So, king e3. I mean, nobody would believe this game is over in less than 10 moves, but we'll see that. a5 check. Once more, white keeps on fixing his pawns on light squares. Bishop d3. We advance little by little, and if black plays knight c6, then we trade knights off. I mean, we had the chance of taking on d7, but here we have this one endgame. We're entering his position sooner or later, and this is his biggest problem. He's tied up defending the a6 pawn. So bishop d3, black plays bishop a4. This is what I admire from Magnus. He always has a waiting move. He never hurries. I mean, this bishop e2 reminds me of the rook c2 we saw a couple of moves ago. I mean, here I would probably go for h4 without even thinking, and it's probably good, but these moves are what make the difference. What makes the difference? Knight d7. Okay, now we see h4. Knight b8. Magnus decides to open the king side. Okay, he takes. Can he play knight c6? Well, here I can take, takes, and then I take on e6. This is the one position. Then we have knight c5 check, and he loses a piece. So f5, takes, takes. Bishop d7. It looks like black has some hope, because he's guarding the e6 pawn. Now we see why Magnus played bishop e2. Now he plays bishop h5. It is obvious that he saw all of this before, and then black has to give up. There's no way of protecting f7, and if he plays this, we take on e6. This runs into bishop takes f7, and yeah, black's position falls. So, another awesome game by Magnus. It is tough to know, it is tough to tell black's biggest mistake, because I think after we saw the queen trade in this game, it was all of white's domination. So from these games, we have to learn. From this technique, we have to get as much as we can. So I hope this material, this work, was useful. It was definitely useful to me. I hope you enjoyed this. And of course, I want to see you guys during my next videos. Thank you.